Good evening and welcome to 27 Minutes here on WJTS 27. Earlier this week, the Ferdinand Post Office building was officially renamed the Staff Sergeant David Nord Post Office. The U.S. Army Sergeant was the town's only casualty during the Vietnam War. Here's Daniel Nord.
On behalf of myself, my sisters, Patty, Joanne, Sue, my mom, Betty, Luann, and David, Tanya, and David's granddaughter, David's daughter, Jordan, and all the Hassanar family relatives. We are thrilled to be at this celebration. We are absolutely thrilled. We genuinely also give thanks to the Ferdinand Community Center. When we approached them, hey, we really think if we had the community center, we'd have enough of a facility so more people could get to experience this and enjoy it. They openly let us use the community center and supported us all the way. Thank you to the Color Guard for presenting the colors. They came quite a ways to do that. On behalf of Fort Knox, the Color Guard came here. Thanks to the American Legion and the Auxiliary, because we know you really are the brothers and sisters of all these veterans. You know, I may be David's brother, but as I've talked to the Cavalry, 11th Cavalry, and many other veterans, he was their brother too. Forest Park High School, I have to say, you know, when we originally approached the school, we had this idea. I personally wanted to try to live out Frank Bagley's desires and dreams. I took it as a personal challenge. Frank's goal, one of Frank's goals, was to make sure that as we renamed the post office in memory of my brother, that when people drove by, they knew why that plaque was there. And for generations to come, hopefully, they have a real good understanding of what's the big deal. Why was that named? So we tried to incorporate a lot of the classroom learnings this week in school with the teachers, presenting a lot of history and background of David in the school systems. So when all you sophomores, juniors, and seniors came, you had a lot more background on what's the big deal. It is a big celebration. U.S. postal officials, you know, we sat down and planned with you. Great ideas, all the way down to some of the programs having the canceled Purple Heart stamp. What a novel idea. Absolutely great. I have a special thanks to two men I never met. But they also died with David. I know they're here with us in spirit celebrating. It's Richard Earl Weiss and Dennis Michael Williams. All three died with one hit. And I really thank them. Most importantly, thanks to a longtime friend who also served with David in Vietnam those last days. Frank had the vision and took the initiative to even get this started. Thank you. The multiple times I was contacted by Barron's Hill's office asking me, I know there were interviews and I was on the phone several times, why should we do this? What's, you know, how, and Barron talked about the due diligence. I was impressed. I was impressed how serious they took the selection process. Very impressive. As Barron said, they contacted a lot of citizens, and it didn't take long where they figured out this is the right thing to do. I also shared with them that, you know, even after 39 years has passed, there's still articles pop up in the papers occasionally about David. All of us in this room, we can only wish that after 39 years somebody thought of us, much less commemorated us with articles. That's amazing. David was a lifelong resident of Ferdinand. He spent many days on the farm at his Uncle Linus and Leroy Cleese. He really did well in basketball in spite of his small size. And he was extremely proud of that brand new motorcycle. I remember going over to Jasper to Montgomery Wards and picking it up with David and my mom and dad. He paid $275 for that motorcycle sitting out there in the lobby. Some people thought I was crazy for keeping it 40 years. I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did. And we hope to figure out how to get it working again someday. Right, David? We're going to get it working. We just need some help. David was a kid that celebrated First Communion, like most kids in this community. He attended St. Ferdinand High. That's what it was called before it was Ferdinand High, and now it's Forest Park. You know, in that time, everybody wore uniforms, even in high school. So it's quite different than today. And he was a typical young adult that obviously touched many lives in Ferdinand with his personality. David was called to duty by the nation's draft, and according to, if you look out in the mobile room, according to all the advancements he made in such a short period of time, and all the personal stories from the 11th Cavalry guys that came, that served directly aside of him, what he did with passion, compassion, and he did it extremely well. That's what we remember about David Nord. I still get handed or sent etchings from the wall, and I never meet a stranger when I go to the Legion. Citizen after citizen recall the last time they talked to him. Even as recent as 3 weeks ago, I had a lady in the auxiliary coming up, "Oh, I remember before he left. He stopped by and shared that discussion with us." Thank you, Julie. They also recalled to me where they were when they heard the news that David Nord got killed. That sounds so familiar with where were you when JFK was shot. In this community, they actually remember where they were when David Nord was killed. By the way, 1 short month after this happened, man landed on the moon for the first time. That kind of puts the time period in perspective. In 1969, many wondered, many worried about the future of his family, especially his wife Luann and his son David, he never met. How can it ever work out? There was a lot of confusion and doubt and worry and all that. Well, I can tell you, yesterday, some of the family and closest friends had an open house out at David and Tanya's beautiful home. And I was talking with a very, very close friend of his dad's. This person served alongside of his dad as a soldier. And we talked very quietly. We said, he just looked at me with a smile. And he just had 39 years of relief. It did work out. Because he was one of those that was so worried about taking care of things and how would it ever work out. And it was quite obvious with his son David's skills and common sense, it worked out. And that wasn't by accident. A great support family. So the next time you want to talk with my brother David, you can. Those of you that know my hobbies, I backpack. I challenge you. Go sit on that highest hill. Stand on the convent, the west balcony, overlooking town on a beautiful sunset evening. Or because of him and the many veterans in this room, you also have the freedom to just sit back at your own home. Look out and listen very closely. He is celebrating right now with us. He's in every sunrise and every sunset. Thank you. At the risk of you getting tired of me, I do also have the privilege to read a personal letter that was written by Frank Bagley. I offered to read it for Frank because I knew this would be a tough day for him as well. An exciting day, though. My name is Frank Bagley. I served with David Nard in Vietnam in 1969. David was a high school buddy of mine in Ferdinand. We hung out together and tried to make the junior varsity team together. Dave was a true leader even then. I remember that Coach Maxey, and Coach, I know you're out there, saw you come in. I welcomed you as coach. I remember that Coach Maxey once said, if everyone played basketball as hard as Dave, we would have a championship team. Dave was like that, wanting to go the extra mile, and in the Army as well. Maybe a little gung-ho in my thinking, but it rubbed off on you. While reading the Indianapolis Star one day, I came across an article about renaming your post office to honor a fallen soldier who gave his life for his country. There were certain qualifications for this honor, and David passed them all. I contacted Kathy Treader of the Ferdinand News and also wrote Postmaster Mr. Brosmer. Kathy called Congressman Baron Hill's office and got the ball rolling. Kathy deserves a lot of credit for today's ceremony. Thank you, Kathy. Kids today in Ferdinand look up to athletes or movie stars. I happen to think they should look up to the real hero right here in Ferdinand. I wanted David Nard's name on this post office so maybe these same kids would ask their mom or dad, why is his name there? And they can tell them about David being a real hero who gave his life for his hometown and his country. When I think about David, I see a boy who led by example, who grew up into a man who many would follow in the jungles of Vietnam. I can still see him giving food rations to starving children, and I can see the leader he became. When I think of honor, duty, and heroism, I think of David. I am proud to say David Nard will always be my hometown hero. Thank you, Frank Bagley. One more thing. I have the highest honor and privilege to now introduce you to 3 more brothers of David who served directly alongside David in Vietnam. They came to Ferdinand just to celebrate with us and make a special presentation. Like David, they were also part of the 2nd Platoon I Troop, 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment. You guys want to come up? I can tell you, these guys first learned of the ceremony about 3 weeks ago, and boy, did they get it together. The one gentleman I heard learned of it last week, and he's already here. I'd like to introduce Nick Sunland from Beach City, Ohio. Chuck Muchler from Frankfort, Kentucky. And Mark Christ. He's the one that found out about it last week. He flew in all the way from San Antonio, Texas. I'll turn it over to them. Okay.
We wanted to give David this plaque that we got made up, and we present this to David Nord from the troopers of 2nd Platoon, I Troop, 3rd Squadron, 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment, who fought alongside your father, Staff Sergeant David L. Nord, in the Vietnam War in 1969. He will not be forgotten.
Just real quick, the picture on here is a picture these gentlemen brought back from Vietnam. Family or myself has never seen this picture of David before until this moment. It is a great honor. Thanks, guys. Appreciate
it. I'd just like to say, I know there's been a lot of controversy about the war in Vietnam over the past 40 years. I know there's been a lot of endless rhetoric. Hollywood has put out their take, making stories that really had nothing to do with our experience. And I'd just like to read something here if I could. You could say there's been a lot of controversy about the war in Vietnam over the past 40 years. Endless debate on the hows and whys. I know Hollywood has bolstered all the rhetoric with a lot of fictional accounts about the men who fought the war, often showing them in a negative light. By its nature, war is an extraordinary event and a horrible business. Any war. And Admiral Halsey once said that heroes are just ordinary people who do extraordinary things. The vast majority of the men and women who served, over 2 million, did their job and they did it well. They were your fathers, sons, brothers, mothers, daughters, sisters. We are here today in dedication and remembrance of one of those men, Staff Sergeant David Nord. I knew him to be a good man, a brave man, and a fine soldier. I don't say this frivolously in the moment. He was so young and faced with an awesome responsibility. He was indeed an extraordinary man. I hope every day that you walk through the door of the post office, or anywhere you may be for that matter, you'll remember him. You can and should be proud of him. He was the best of us.
Thank you, Dan. At this time, David Nord II would like to say a few words.
Everything about my father I've been told, so his memory will live on. I would like to thank Brandon and the post office. The Ferdinand post office is by no means the largest post office in the state. But to my father, receiving a letter from the postmark of Ferdinand meant a letter from home. It meant a friend or a loved one took the time to write him a letter. It was a connection to the world outside of service. It's because of this honor his memory will live on. To Frank Bagley, who started this whole thing, I cannot express the words of gratitude and honor that I feel. As you know, Frank wants everyone who ever sees the post office to know about David. He wants the children to know what kind of man his friend was. What I'm sure he doesn't realize was how much I would learn about my father in the process. It is because of you, Frank, that his memory will live on. To Kathy Treader and the Ferdinand News, you took the ball and ran with it. You didn't have to contact Baron Hill's office. Never did you have to run a large article on David. It's not required for you to keep telling his story, but it is because of his memory will live on. To Baron Hill, who thought that renaming the post office after Staff Sergeant David L. Nord was an idea he wanted to help along. So much so that you put your name on it and got support from Congress. Our family watched C-SPAN and kept track of Bill H.R. 3106. We waited for the president to sign it in law. We planned out the celebration. The day is today. And it is because of you that his memory will live on. To my family, my mother, Luann, you always has a smile on her face, a twinkle in her eye. You raised me to be the man I am today. To Gary, who is my dad, David is my father by blood. You are my dad by choice. To my grandmother, Bert, who promised my father, David, to take care of Luann and the baby. To my grandmother, Betty, who after almost 40 years still thinks of the son she lost every day. To my Uncle Dan, my godfather, you've been the person who showed me who my father was. To my beautiful daughter, Jordan, when I look at you, I understand what my father missed. He missed the joy of parenthood. You make your daddy proud. I share this with you so that his memory will live on. To the teachers and students, to have a teacher that is passionate like Mr. Walston, he is not reading a manual about the Vietnam War. That was part of his life. He wants you to understand the impact it had on our country, the world, and how it affects you today. Even though the war was 40 years ago, it affects your classmates today through Bryce and Jordan. Years from now, when you're walking to the post office with your child or grandchild, and they ask, who is that soldier picture on the wall? Just don't say, oh, well, it's someone who died a long time ago. Take a minute and tell them the story of David and how you were there the day they renamed the Ferdinand Post Office after a young man who was killed in Vietnam. A son who loved his mother, a big brother who still tried to give advice and guidance by handwritten letters, a husband who came home on leave from Vietnam to marry his high school sweetheart, to only be married for 3 weeks, of a father who never saw his son's face, but also of a community who thought it was important to remember. And by you, remembering and sharing the story of Staff Sergeant David L. Nord, his memory will live on. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to ask Staff Sergeant Nord's family, Congressman Hill and Donna, to join me on stage and unveil a photographic copy of the plaque, which will be during the post office building.
Congratulations to the Nord family. Sign-ups for the ever-popular Jasper Summer Tennis Camp will be held on Monday. Camp Director Ed Yarbrough said this year's camp will be a bit different.
Camp is definitely going to make, I think, a big improvement. We are basically utilizing a brand new USTA program called Quick Start Tennis. And this is a brand new format. Something we kind of got into a little bit last year, but USTA really has improved and enhanced the program in the last year, and now they have really got it down to quite a science, you might say. So Quick Start Tennis very simply has an entirely different philosophy in that it's the play to learn and not learn to play. And to be honest with you, we've taught the learn to play here at Jasper in our camp for years and years and years. And not that that's not successful, but the idea here is that sometimes there's a better way. And right now we think there's a better way. And the idea, if you think about it, we're probably kind of joining in with many other sports and what they've done with younger players, such as baseball has got T-ball. And the soccer has shortened the field and utilized smaller soccer balls and so forth. Well, basically what has happened here is tennis is going to do the same thing. We're going to shorten, for the younger kids, we're going to shorten the court, we're going to lower the nets, we're going to use special kinds of tennis balls, lower compression foam, and that bounce the right height for younger people, and shorten the games and that type of thing. So we finally figured out, I think, in tennis how to get younger players involved in the game. And let's face facts, in tennis, the idea is to hit the ball across the net as many times as possible. So, and to play, and to actually play against an opponent, and being able to rally the ball and that type of thing. So that's exactly the direction we're going to go. We are going to be changing, our courts here, going from, shortening the courts, playing, and actually the younger ones will play across the court. We were, investing in new nets for the younger kids, the smaller rackets, and the whole business. So everything then is going to be held here at the high school. Last year we kind of experimented a little bit with the middle school and decided that having everything here under the one umbrella is a lot better, where we can supervise and help and go out and have fun with the kids and talk with them and show the instructors the new things or make them change here or there and watch the kids. The other thing is being able to watch the players, and as they're improving, we're able to move them along or progress them from one level to the next. So we're really excited about it. I think it's going to be a big improvement for our tennis program.
The sign-up for the Jasper Summer Tennis Camp will be this Monday from 6:15 until 7:45 p.m. at the Jasper High School Auxiliary Gym. That will wrap up this edition of 27 Minutes. For the entire crew, I'm Kurt Gutgsell. Have a great night.